Well, we're going to look at the 3rd and 9 touchdown run of Justin Forsett, and a little bit like the 2-point play we did with the Huskies. It's not so much the dramatic scheme that was employed, it was really the execution. When you run the ball in the NFL, it is so hard to do. It's so hard to block everybody. You can draw all these plays on paper and say, yeah, we got this angle and this looks right. But for everybody, for Stokely, for Okung, for Ben Hamilton, for Spencer and Stacey Andrews, for John Carlson, they all had to be perfect. Perfect in their technique in the run game to create the crease that they got for Forsett to score. So this was 3rd and 9 in the second quarter. A 3rd and 9 call from the 9.5, or 3rd and goal from the 9.5. And Chicago, much like I told you, the Huskies lined up in a defense that Oregon State knew was coming. You get into 3rd and 9, Hasselbeck, Bates, they pretty good guess that Chicago in that situation was going to be in their Tampa 2, that cover 2 shell, and that's exactly what they were. In fact, their safeties were all the way in the end zone on that play, and there were some pretty good gaps and bubbles. So I think when the play was called and people see that run action, you immediately think, well, conservative call, get your points, which to an extent is true, but you also look at some of the angles, and if everybody blocks appropriately, you have a chance to create that crease that they did. So I thought in watching this originally, this was just a draw play. It would be draw action, but it really wasn't. It was actually a zone play and a zone to the strong side that you're going to see the push because of the blocks created, that Forsett was able to come back and hit the seam. One thing also is traditionally, if this was just, as we called it in the West Coast system, double right 66T, an outside zone play, your concept of zone would be everybody zoning to an area, trying to block to a man, these two getting up to a linebacker or trying to get to this backer, and these guys in a 2-for-1 trying to get here and leave Julius Peppers and hope he doesn't make a play. So instead, knowing you're in the red zone, they imply a little different blocking scheme, which really allowed them to get a hat on a hat. So let me walk through each of those guys and what they had to do. First and foremost, the guy that doesn't get any credit that should is Brandon Stokely. And you're going to see him, if you watch this replay, explode. I mean explode off the ball, because he knows to get his hat across this nickelback is tough duty. That nickelback is looking at the play in front of him the whole time, and those guys jump on it and they react. And once he sees that handoff, he is flying to make a play, but Stokely played faster, and he actually gets his helmet all the way across and is able to wash the nickelback down into the end zone. Just a tremendous block from Brandon Stokely. Second guy, Russell Okung, he had probably the easiest job because he free releases and just mashes Brian Urlacher. And he has the angle to do so, and he gets his body on him in a great play. Hamilton was aided because Chicago decided to run this and be aggressive here, and Hamilton washes this tackle down and gets movement again. Spencer mashes this guy down, gets movement again. Andrews actually tries to get to the linebacker and really does not do a very good job. This linebacker, not a great play. We'll let this run out. And here's the other guy, right along with Stokely. He probably had maybe job number 1 of difficulty. Carlson had job number 2. It's probably the other way. Carlson's job number 1 and Stokely number 2, because Carlson had to come all the way from the strong side and come underneath. And here you have 6'7", 270 Julius Peppers bearing down on you, and Carlson puts his helmet right into the thigh pad. And actually Peppers was slow to get up. You watch that technique, and Carlson gets his head across and literally smashes his thigh pad and wipes him out of that play, cuts him down. And in so doing, creates this seam. So when Forsett gets the handoff, he can feel this mashing and this movement, and Russell Okung on the backer, and all these guys flowing, and he actually has a gorgeous seam to cut it back, and then that pile right into the end zone. But it took incredible execution here. I mean, an incredible play here from Carlson as well to cut the thigh pad. Okung mashes Urlacher. These two, Spencer, Hamilton, get the perfect movement. All those guys had to be precise in their details. They had to be perfect. They had to get their head across. They had to get on the thigh pads. It's not just about lining up and I'm going to get to a spot. No, you had to be absolutely precise in your detail in the blocking, and that creates that seam and that movement to allow Forsett to score the touchdown and get ahead of the Bears 14-7.